An article in yesterday's Oregonian said that my opponent, Rob Cornelius, is the likely nominee of the Republican Party. Unfortunately for Rob, the Oregonian doesn't get to choose the Republican Party's nominee. Republican voters do. Now, Rob is a very nice, good-looking, pleasant young man, but I don't think he will get much support from Republican voters if they understand what he stands for, because most Republican voters are fiscally conservative, and Rob is not. Rob, first of all, I ran for this office. I was the Republican nominee in 2002. Rob was the Republican nominee in 2010. Rob refused to sign a no new tax pledge that the Americans for Tax Reform put out, and all fiscally conservative candidates signed that pledge. Rob wouldn't sign it. If you want to know why, on his website, he explains that if we pass a balanced budget amendment, it will require severe tax hikes to balance the budget. Now, I, Jim Greenfield, think that you don't balance the budget by raising taxes. You can't fix a spending problem by raising taxes. We didn't get into this fix by having taxes be too low. We got into this problem because our government is spending money out of control. The federal government today spends 25% of GDP. That's the highest level in history. We have a spending problem, not a lack of tax problem. And I will sign the pledge, no new taxes. In fact, I want to cut taxes, and I want to cut spending even more. We have a crisis in America. Now, the national debt, which is now $15 trillion and growing by billions of dollars every day, and both Democrats and Republicans got us into this mess. That's a symptom of the problem. The debt is a symptom of the problem. The problem is excessive spending and government that is way too big. I'm going to give you a couple of statistics that illustrate this point, and this really sums up the problem. Do you know how many people are employed by government in the United States of America today, federal, state, and local level, non-military employees? Anybody know? 19 million. Do you know how many are employed in manufacturing? 11 million. See the problem? You see, society only has, we have finite resources. There's a public sector and a private sector. It's a zero-sum game. If the public sector gets bigger, the private sector shrinks. Now, who creates the wealth? The government bureaucrats create wealth? Who creates wealth? You know, the Wright brothers, Thomas Edison, Alexander Graham Bell, Stephen Jobs. These are private sector creative people who create inventions, who create new ideas, who create businesses and hire people. And the government has gotten so big and so oppressive and the taxes are so high that it's crushing our free enterprise system. Now, do you think that by having the government spend another $1 trillion on a quote-unquote stimulus program, do you think it's going to work any better than the last stimulus program worked? It's not going to work. We need the government to get out of the way to cut our tax. We have the highest corporate tax rate in the world. And people say, well, why are all the corporations moving the jobs overseas? If you're a corporate manager, and it costs you twice as much to hire workers in the United States than it costs to hire them in China or Indonesia, where are you going to go? Of course you're going to go overseas. We need to make a business-friendly environment here. We shouldn't blame China. It's not their fault. Our problems don't originate in Peking. They originate in Washington. American businesses can compete with anyone in the world if the government gets off their backs, lowers their taxes, cuts the regulation. We've got regulations that keep oil companies from drilling oil in America. So we got to buy oil from Saudi Arabia, and our gasoline prices have doubled. We have, government regulations are you know why banks aren't lending? I'm in the real estate business. I know this. Do you know why banks aren't lending? I asked the bankers, how come it's so hard to get a loan? Because Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, which are government agencies, are making the rules, and they're making it impossible for people to get loans. As Milton Friedman said, if the government managed the Sahara Desert, in 5 years we'd run out of sand. So, how much time I got left? Okay, so let me just finish with a quote from a well-known American. I'll give you a hint. It wasn't Barack Obama. He said, "I do then wish an inviolable preservation of our present Constitution. I am not for transferring all the powers of the states to the general government. I am for a government vigorously frugal and simple to preserve the people's independence. We must not let our rulers load us with perpetual debt." And this is the tendency of all human governments, till the bulk of society is reduced to be mere automatons of misery, to have no sensibilities left but for sinning and suffering. Then begins indeed the war of all against all. And the forehorse of this frightful team is public debt. Taxation follows that, and in its train, wretchedness and oppression. That was not Barack Obama. It was Thomas Jefferson, the author of the Declaration of Independence, who understood exactly the problem we're facing today. And we need people in Congress who understand it also, who understand that it's the free enterprise system that creates wealth, that the solution is to cut the government. And there are a lot of politicians are saying we should balance the budget in 8 or 10 years. We don't have 8 or 10 years. I want to balance the budget now. And that's going to mean cutting. I want to get rid of entire agencies that are damaging our economy, the Department of Energy, the Department of Education, Department of Transportation, Health and Human Services. We can get rid of all these agencies. We don't need them. We didn't used to have them. And our country used to be the fastest growing economy. It used to be the United States that grew at 11% a year, not China. And that's when the government was very small, 3% of GDP. We can go back to that. So if you agree with this, my name is Jim Greenfield, and I'm running for Congress. Thank you.